Since biblical times, man has witnessed and recorded strange manifestations in the sky and speculated on the possibilities of visitors from another world.
Never seen anything like it before. Moving towards the town of Livermore.
Are unidentified flying objects flying saucers from another planet filled with little green men, or is there some more unbelievable explanation? My next two guests should be able to help us. Please welcome UFO experts Arthur Tomlinson and Jerry Banyard. So, do you think there are aliens who have been, like, in touch with Earth or visited us?
Absolutely.
No question whatsoever.
They always seem to appear to say one or two people, but why doesn't it sort of land in Trafalgar Square or here in the studio or something?
No,
Are they trying to make contact, or are they just trying to
could I
muck us around?
This is the experiment, you see.
This is the experiment.
Scientists don't interfere with the experiment they're conducting.
Yeah. If we're assuming these are highly intelligent people, they've come what...
And we're the experiment.
Yeah, but like, we're the experiment.
We're the
So
experiment.
what are they doing with us? Are they...
Trying to interbreed with us.
Hybrids.
Yeah.
No, this is fact. This is fact.
Yeah.
From abductions and perceived time loss to sexual encounters and unexplained pregnancies.
For at least 4 generations now, we've been able to document that they've been taken, given medical examinations, extract semen from males, extract eggs from females, fertilize eggs to a half-breed, shall we say.
Take a nice deep breath.
Re-implant the egg in the womb. The female, of course, is pregnated.
So you're saying aliens are and interbred with people
what
here?
they actually do, they abduct women. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
And
these are the great ones.
impregnate
Yeah.
I had a very vivid experience of having a fetus put into my body and removed.
No, they impregnate the women, and
Yes.
after about 3 months, the embryo is removed.
Well, 3 months later, they came back and took me aboard the craft and removed something that looked like a placenta attached to an umbilical cord.
From your body?
Yes.
So you're pregnant, you're suddenly not pregnant, and what happened to this child was that you were abducted and the child was taken from you.
The first thing that came to my mind when I woke up that morning was I'm not pregnant.
I knew when I woke up that morning that I was no longer pregnant.
She believes the aliens took her baby.
What they had done was remove a fetus from me.
They have been impregnating women and then later invading those women's bodies again and stealing the unborn fetuses.
Not only are the women become pregnant, but the child, the baby, the fetus, is taken in the 3rd month of pregnancy. What happens to it?
We'll carry the fetus for 3 months and will be re-abducted and the fetus extracted.
Artificially grown.
Yeah.
Until, okay, they have a hybrid.
Hybrid alien
That's
stroke
it.
John Major. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Well,
Although we're chuckling away, everyone.
This is going on absolutely right now, today, in very significant numbers.
And the government knows about it.
Absolutely.
And they're quite happy about it because some deal's been done.
Is that the bunch that you suggest we've made a deal with for military technology?
I think we made a deal with them, and their ultimate, what they want to do is regenerate their own race.
As if what they're trying to do is to create a hybrid mix.
Next thing you know, I have a miscarriage and there's no fetus. There's nothing.
She and other women told of being shown babies by aliens. The implication? That the babies were theirs.
The woman might be re-abducted months or even years later and shown a tiny baby.
Anna and Beth even describe being presented with hybrid human-alien offspring.
And they are told that this is your child. And they are asked to bond with the child, to hold it.
And they kept urging me to pick it up. It was important for some reason that they wanted me to hold it, to touch it.
Now, on another occasion, I remembered being shown a baby. You were shown a child, and this child you recognize, but it's part human and it's part not human.
It didn't look real good.
When this child is supposedly born, it's presented, and I have been told, this is your child.
I was taken into a small room and I was presented a little girl about 2 years old. And she was beautiful. She was very human looking. She had big blue eyes and long blonde hair, but she lacked emotion.
I remember them presenting me with children they tell me are mine, and they want me to hold them, and I won't, and I've dropped them.
They presented this child to me and they said to me, isn't she a beautiful baby? And telepathically they were communicating to me that it was my child.
She has a baby. And I look down and I'm holding the baby. She must have put it in my arms.
It was like the instant I held it, I knew it was mine. There was some feeling or something.
Is this something that runs in your family?
Yes, I believe it does.
Stop it.
No,
It runs in your family?
my brother, I was talked to my brother, and as we talked, he was remembering things when we were kids in the house.
The Aarons family believes alien kidnappers have not only intruded in the lives of their children, but are now visiting one of their grandchildren.
It would have been interesting to see how there is a connection from grandmother to mother, who has lost several babies, where did they go, to me, who has had all these different pregnancies, now to my daughter, who is an adult.
When I got out in 1989, we had cataloged 57 different species. You have individuals that look very much like you and myself that could walk among us and you wouldn't even notice the difference. The unique thing that I'd like to point out for the most part is that the entities that we did catalog were in fact humanoid. Now this created a situation where the scientific community was trying to figure out why that would be the case, because you would expect that if life evolved on other planets that they would take on some type of other being, so to speak, not necessarily look humanoid or be bipedal such as we are.
And the third thing that they do is genetic experiments. They've been crossbreeding. There's a very good book out now called Intruders, written by Bud Hopkins, and it's about a crossbreeding experiment with a girl in Indianapolis.
What you are about to hear are the actual tapes from her hypnotherapy sessions.
Something's not right.
What's happening? What's happening?
Like I was being squashed.
Squashed? Whole body?
My stomach.
Stomach.
I felt as if somebody had taken my insides and just ripped me open inside, and I could feel something pulling out of me, and this little tiny thing that looked like a mouse with no skin on it, like a baby mouse, squirming around in their hand. No! It was not right!
That is a woman crying out in pain, emotional pain, that her child is being taken from her. This is the first case that let us understand the sexual reproductive purpose, and now we see it as central, as absolutely the focus of the whole thing.
Her experience, which is supported by the landing traces in the backyard and by neighbors who felt shaking, saw lights, and experienced a loss of electricity that night, is similar to the experiences of at least 200 other people that we know of, possibly more that we don't.
Although it sounds strange, believe me when I tell you, you may not find out in a month, a year, 5 years, or 10 years, but you'll look back at what I'm telling you now and you'll say to yourself, my gosh, the son of a gun was right.
I'm dealing now with dozens of similar cases. Recently, a woman who's married to a doctor went through 3 months of pregnancy, and there was a heartbeat on the ultrasound, and then one morning she had a normal period, and there was suddenly no fetus. No fetus. She went in and they did a D&C and sent everything to pathology, and there was absolutely no fetal tissue. Now this happens to be the wife of a doctor.
Exactly where do you live? In a house in a village, or in a city or a town? Where?
Just in a town, a normal house in a normal town.
Exactly. So all the words are just flying across, and they said, oh, we'll go down there. Oh, wonderful. Let's all go down there, shall we? All go down there, shall we?
Sir?
What a load of rubbish.
Oh, different variety. Can I show an example?
Yeah.
That's the grey species.
Grey species, right.
No.
Hang on.
No.
He's sort of short.
We're being serious, remember. We're being
round,
serious.
bald-headed.
And I was awake, but I couldn't move, and I became aware of a little being standing by my bed right there.
Marina.
And I wasn't drinking, I promise, Vicky.
These are sketches of alien abductors made by their victims.
All I can clearly remember doing is raving about demons and evil, and a throwback to my religious conditioning, I guess. Yet even so, I was totally convinced, and I still am, that I was in the presence of something totally diabolical. I truly believe that the beings we were witnessing had no souls. I've never been able to explain that conclusion quite adequately, but except to say, rather than by any other means, I felt it. In reaction to my yelling, the being's eyes then seemed to light up a blazing red colour, and they came rushing across the field towards us, and that was it for me. I began invoking the name of God as if there was no tomorrow, and the next thing I recall was being back in the car, severely disorientated and wondering what on earth had happened.
After the incident, we were told that there were several Bibles that were missing. I believe it was 7 of them, one in particular, but I thought all 3 women had Bibles missing from their homes.
I'd like to say that I've had experiences since I was very young, but I was lucky enough that my parents had friends that got me on the right road so I wouldn't feel like I feel like you guys feel. I have a positive feeling about it. They told me to make myself look beautiful when I went to bed for the angels that would take me into dreamland. And I was always told that they were angels. Therefore, I thought of them as angels. I thought I was lucky, you know. Yeah, I'd been on the table and had all those things stuck on me, but they give me a sex dream instead, so it doesn't matter.
The figure that she described, which is a short one, hairless, broad head, wide eyes, is an absolutely archetypal figure from mythology, from demonology, in fact.
So could it have been the influence of some religious vision or something that you had read about?
I mean, I am not a fantasy-prone person. I'm not a deeply religious person. I mean, I have beliefs, but they're nothing that take over my life.
I remember the conversation very well. This is a person I respected tremendously, very, very senior person. He's told me, he said, Lou, I want you to stop doing this. I said, okay, sir, I certainly can, but may I ask why? And he says, well, we already know what it is. Now, at that moment, I honestly thought maybe it was our own technology. I was running up against some super uber secret sap, and they were telling me to stop. And I said, okay, sir, so it's ours? And he said, no, that's not what I'm saying. And he said, he asked me point blank, have you read your Bible lately? And I wasn't quite sure where he was going with that. And I said, well, sir, I think I know what it says. Where are you going with this?
One of the biggest things, surprisingly, that he ran into with opposition within the Pentagon and within the Defense Department to the work that he was doing is that there was a very large contingent of people that believed that this was a demonic force, as in demons, and that we shouldn't be doing it. We shouldn't be investigating it. We shouldn't be poking the tiger in the eye.
And he said, well, then you would know that these things are demonic and we should not be pursuing them. Yeah. And he wasn't kidding. That's exactly how he felt.
And that was not just a little voice in the Pentagon. This was a huge group of people.
Wait, they thought the phenomenon that was being witnessed was demons?
Yes, within the military establishment, within the Pentagon, within DOD, there was a large number of people that opposed his work because they thought from a very, very fundamentalist viewpoint that we're dealing with demonic activity. So this is a Pentagon, this is a Department of Defense official saying, stop looking at UFOs because they're demonic?
Correct.
The people's representatives, members of Congress who sit on judiciary, armed services, and the oversight committees are being denied access to this information. But if we do not have the clearance, who does? I think it's incredibly important to listen to the specific words that Grush uses. You know, Grush never said extraterrestrial or alien, he said interdimensional.
I would couch it as non-human intelligence, NHI, like we would like to say in our language.
Why do you say that? Why do you say NHI?
I don't want to necessarily denote origin. I don't think we have all the data to say, oh, they're coming from a certain location. Maybe they're coming from a different physical dimension as described in quantum mechanics.
Mr. Grush, why is it that you refer to the phenomenon as non-human intelligence? Why deviate from the basis of extraterrestrial life?
I think the phenomenon is very complex, and I like to leave an open mind analytically to specific origin.
When you say specific origin, are you can you elaborate on that for those that might not?
If it's a traditional extraterrestrial origin or something else that we don't quite understand from either a biological or astrophysics perspective, I just like to
keep an open mind on what it could be. Yeah.
There's just certain things that I think that it's important that you guys listen to on that.
And Representative Luna, she said that Grush will not call it alien. He refers to it as interdimensional. He's very particular about that.
These verses go to greater detail to what is described in Genesis 6. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children.
It portrays fallen angels. These are not the good guys. Remember when Satan fell, a third of the angels fell with him. Not all of them, but a group of them, apparently, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, chose to try to create a hybrid race. They came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. It's those children that are the Nephilim. Now, what on earth is the Nephilim?
The term Nephilim became synonymous with giants because that's what they tended to be. It is by no means limited to that meaning. In fact,
the word they used for the Nephilim was gigantes. It sounds like giants, and it turns out they were giants, but that's not what the word means. Gigantes comes from gigas, which means earthborn.
The word Nephilim is more of an umbrella term for the hybrid children, creatures of any high strangeness, which are actual flesh and blood, biological products of the B'nai Ha-Elohim, the fallen angels.
Nephilim means the fallen ones. It comes from the verb nephal, which means to fall, be cast down, to fall away, to desert.
The Nephilim are the offspring of fallen angels and human women, creating a hybrid being known as the Nephilim.
So speaking for myself, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if this is the Nephilim, right?
I was going to say,
I don't know.
I know.
Here we go.
They have been stripped of their apparel. They go naked. And they have horrible faces.
This is a quote from an early Jewish writing called The Book of the Cave of Treasures. It tells of fallen angels and the bastard children called Nephilim. God destroyed the Nephilim's bodies and doomed them to wander the earth in an invisible dimension, and they are still terrifying men. In our modern paradigm, they are known as demon spirits. The word demon is from the Greek language and means knowledge. The demon knowledge is greater than man's.
He's a Naval Academy graduate and former branch chief of the Department of Guided Missiles, CEO of 6 public companies. 4 of the 6 were highly classified in the Department of Defense. Are you a little Miss Sugar? What are you talking about? UFOs, flying saucers? I mean, I don't get it.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the intended encouragement, but I really came at this whole subject because of my love for the Bible.
The 2 top researchers in the last century, really, is Jacques Vallée, France, and J. Allen Hynek, the American. Now, J. Allen Hynek was head of astronomy at Cornell, and he set out to debunk this nonsense about UFOs, and he became one of the most ardent, competent, balanced researchers in the trade. Both of these respected researchers came to the conclusion that they're not intergalactic. They both argued that these things are demonic. Their term.
But Vallée, who is not a Christian, was one of the earliest people to say and to write for this audience that there is something spiritually sinister about this alien contact messaging.
But I've been talking to a lot of people over the last few months that think that aliens are angels and devils. So it will present as if it's from another planet. But really what it is some sort of interdimensional spiritual being that may or may not be evil. It might be good, it might be evil, and there might be a bunch of different kinds out there in the world.
When people start throwing around angels and demons and all that, it loses me. It's not to say that, again, that there's not merit to it, but like I start to tune out a little bit.
Did aliens actually land in someone's backyard in Las Vegas? Someone called 911 and said they did.
There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
The fireball captured on a police body cam on the night of April 30th was real. The American Meteor Society says witnesses reported seeing it all across the West, from northeastern Utah to Southern California. Another Las Vegas resident sent us a video of the same object recorded on her home camera.
I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified with it.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot. 9 feet, 10 foot, I don't know. They look like aliens to us.
And in this case, we can definitively say, to a degree of scientific certainty, that this entity, this thing in the video, is there in the physical reality in which the Kenmore family is also there.
What do you believe it is?
A demon.
A demon?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like something bad, not a good thing.
When did it end?
As soon as I closed my eyes, I guess. I don't know, I think I was praying or something like that, and they just let me go. That's when I went inside.
The guy said Angel Kenmore said he was paralyzed and terrified, and he closed his eyes and started praying. I cite many researchers who talk about how using the name of Christ actually works to shut down abductions and terrifying moments for people that go through that experience. And this goes right back to what Joe Jordan says, is that hundreds of cases of alien abduction completely halted at the name of Jesus being proclaimed.
There's over 400 cases, that I'm aware of with collaborators that I work with, where these abductions have been halted by people calling on the name of Jesus Christ.
What I found out was, as anyone who studies this area knows, is that these abductions are very often stopped with only one thing. It is by claiming the blood and authority of Jesus Christ.
There you go.
That's the only thing I have ever heard that stops these abduction experiences from going forward. They get stopped dead in their tracks. And we've seen it. We've seen it over and over again.
In point of fact, certain abductees have successfully terminated their abduction experience by calling out to Jesus for assistance. This is important considering that certain higher spiritual forces also exist.
They've documented over 100 cases where they will either lead someone to Christ or train a person to make it a spiritual confrontation when whatever is happening to them happens, and they have been delivered from repeated abduction experiences. In other words, they stop. If that's successful, to me that says there's some inherent spiritual element to this particular thing within this big umbrella world we call UFO stuff.
Well, it turns out that these unidentified, unexplainable phenomenon didn't just stop at that night. Angel went into great detail with me during our one-on-one conversation about other paranormal activity that's been happening, but this time inside of their house.
Well, I was in another room, my brother called me, and there was a upside-down cross, and there was a Jesus statue in it. They ripped Jesus out of it, they threw him across the room, and it was floating upside down.
Floating in the air?
Yeah, in the air. It was floating upside down. We got closer to it and then it dropped.
It fell to the ground. A crucifix floating in the air, upside down. The Jesus on the crucifix had been ripped off, and it was floating. And you can say definitively, without lies, that is what you saw.
Yes. Swear to God, that's what I saw. We had a couple priests come over to the house, pray over the house, and everything seems to be normal again.
What did the priests say when they actually came to your house?
They were saying that it might be fallen angels, demons or fallen angels, something like that.
Fallen angels inside your home.
Yeah.
I said, my friend, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt what I would say. I am bought with the blood of Jesus. Let me go.
These so-called alien entities, whatever they are, had made denials about Christianity. And what Ray found was that in a number of cases, it was always Christianity that was targeted rather than any other religion.
A famous incident is where the human contactee was put into a trance and then began to write a book. It's called the Urantia book. And it's the Bible of several UFO cult religions. It's almost 4,000 pages long, and a third of the content of the Urantia book is focused on denying the deity of Jesus Christ.
Wow.
You're a pastor, you should be able to figure out, okay, if that's what's going on, we're dealing with the fallen angels.
Author Whitley Strieber, in his classic account of an alien encounter, I'd lay as still as death, suffering inner agonies. Whatever was there seemed so monstrously ugly, so filthy and dark and sinister. Of course they were demons. They had to be. And they were here and I couldn't get away.
Bedroom visitations and paralysis happens in the paranormal, be it a smoky apparition or shadowy apparition. You wake up, you're paralysed. Or 3 UFO entities with a light shining through your window. Levitation and manipulation found in both camps. Spiritual communications do happen in both camps. The conjuring of the phenomena, we've talked about C5, or around the seance tables like Skull Experiment. What truly is this phenomena? Could it be something that has been changing its mask?
The UFO phenomenon simply does not behave like extraterrestrial visitors. It actually molds itself in order to fit a given culture.
It changes with culture. It changes with belief. It changes with what your knowledge of the subject is, even. It is the phenomena. In various masks, of course, are being produced for different countries or belief systems. Right. But if you tear all that away, you're left with an undertone of, this is the phenomena, oh yes, and this shows itself as something that can manipulate its appearance and us as well.
The amount of evidence amassed after years of abduction research clearly demonstrates that someone or something from outside our accepted physical reality is able to access and manipulate our physical reality in ways curiously similar to age-old accounts of demonological encounters. Were demons actually aliens, or are aliens actually demons?
Human beings are under the control of a strange force that bends them in absurd ways, forcing them to play a role in a bizarre game of deception.
And you know, when other people have reported on cases where the onset of an encounter, which I choose to call an abduction since it's unwilling, begins with seeing perhaps a 3-foot-tall owl in the window. All right, and this is the conscious memory the person has, and there's missing time after that, and then perhaps later under hypnosis or with spontaneous recall, the owl was not an owl. It was an alien. That is deceptive. The owl is a deceptive screen.
And Mary said, yeah, that night I dreamt that there were 6 deer standing around our bed.
Deer with big eyes.
Deer with big eyes.
A respected researcher and abductee herself has been Dr. Carla Turner. She authored 3 books on the abduction phenomenon: Into the Fringe, Taken, and Masquerade of Angels.
Oh, that is the title of your book, the working title, Masquerade of Angels?
It is the title. It is, yes.
Oh, what an intriguing title. What made you pick that?
Well, I hope you'll get a chance to read this story and you'll probably see for yourself. For instance, with Pat, when they first abducted her entire family back in 1954, the creatures told her that, she said, "Are you angels?" And they said, "Yes, but not as you have been taught."
Oh, boy.
At least some of the aliens are liars. Pat, who's one of the cases in my book, was shown a copy of her body that was in storage with a number of other human bodies. She was told it was for the resurrection. And if you know your Bibles, you know when the resurrection comes, we will all get new bodies. Pat was raised in a very simple Christian fundamentalist background. The aliens, throughout their encounters with Pat and her family, had used the religious symbolism to bond with the family and to instill confidence in them. They'd even had Jesus beam into the room at one point when the Greys were abducting the grandmother and say, "It's okay, they're with me."
Since you have been reporting this, you said that the military and people have been harassing you. Is that true?
Well, even before we reported it, Montel, it began the first time we even contacted anyone in UFO research to help us find out what was happening with our family. We met 2 different times late into the evening with the UFO research group in Dallas, and both times we left there in the middle of the night, we were followed by unmarked white cars through 3 towns, because it was 3 or 4 towns away from where we lived. This was the beginning of human surveillance. And the final thing was when my husband was abducted by military personnel in November of '88, drugged, questioned, and threatened about our involvement, what we knew about the aliens and what our family had been involved with them. And when he wouldn't answer, he was knocked out and doesn't know what happened to him after that.
Dr. Carla Turner died of a strange, fast-acting cancer in 1996 after being threatened for her work. She was only 48 years old.
Again, we see one of the emblems. We've got the triangles. I think they show up almost every time unless we have the serpent showing up. Lisa's drawing of the reptilian entity that was very aggressive sexually with her as well.
Now, there's a lot about being said about this reptile type of alien, and now if what they call Bob Lazar reckons that they have actually got those in the underground facilities at Area 51, that they are liaising, as well as the Greys, they are liaising with the American authorities, but they are basically a lizard type.
And we track this phenomenon back because it is age old. And my colleague Barry Fitzgerald has managed to track this back to at least 700 BC from Botswana, you know, where these deities, these serpent beings were communicating with the people there.
Claimed alien abductions, things said to literally pop up not from space, but right inside people's bedrooms, shadow people, body paralysis, serpent, snake, reptilian creatures not dissimilar to the wisdom serpents throughout not just Egypt, but the entirety of the ancient world.
We have connections between angels and UFOs. We can see it in biblical artwork. You know, some of those are very, very old. There are hundreds, if not thousands of them around the world. We see this in statues. Peru, for an example, you can see this image to the right of, well, it looks like a reptilian type of being, doesn't it? To be honest with you. But it's one of their deities, you know? Why do they have these interesting connections to reptilians and strange non-human type beings?
They'll talk about a lot of serpents ranging from enormous creatures to these more or less human-sized things, often with man-like or human-like features, similar to the wisdom serpents or serpent gods found in every single major ancient culture with uncanny similarities. Look at that big old serpent crawling inside of the crescent-shaped moon between the two Babylonian Ishtar stars.
And what if that's happening? Which I believe it is. I think that there are forces at work that are trying to either come through from the other side in or navigate people and influence people. Maybe the people know. Maybe some people call upon these things to enter them. If those are the people in power or not, never gonna know. They might be lizard people, they might not be lizard people. But
I do believe you're gonna find the serpents like the one these three fine fellas are praying to in nearly every belief and religion on earth. You know, when I think about it, there are a lot of things in the ancient world that have this sort of reptile, cold-blooded twist to them.
Noted French researcher and author of Messengers of Deception, Dr. Jacques Vallée stated, "The structure of abduction stories is identical to that of occult initiation rituals. The UFO beings of today belong to the same class of manifestation as the occult entities that were described in centuries past."
The first entities ever seen in association to what we might refer to as extraterrestrial didn't appear near any associated UFO or seen in association to something in the sky. It was around the seance tables, the occult.
And what was interesting is that there was a huge satanic ritual that was performed on the very spot where Area 51 happened by this Jack Parsons, and in which they had this magical ceremony called Babylon Working, and it was designed by Aleister Crowley, who was a Satanist who called himself the B666.
So I began my little journey forward. An individual I learned about was Aleister Crowley. He likes to have his name pronounced Crowley to rhyme with holy.
He had so many Masonic degrees that you could fill up 5 pages of a book with them. This guy was probably the most highly honored Mason in the world. And he was also the most dangerous man of the 20th century.
A self-proclaimed black magician at the top of a great many of the most predominant secret societies.
He styled himself the wickedest man in the world. He believed himself to be the great beast, and he changed his name to Aleister Crowley, so it would add up in both English, Hebrew, and Greek Kabbalah as 666.
And one other interesting point is that Aleister Crowley, who was a Satanist, who called himself the B666, as I just mentioned, he claimed to have contact with some kind of alien named Lamb. And this Lamb, he drew a picture of this alien that he was in contact, receiving messages from.
From January through March of 1918, Crowley began another series of sexual magic ceremonies in New York City called the Amalantra Workings.
And at least one intelligence was brought into physical manifestation. In other words, this being appeared via a magical portal that they opened. They believe they opened the very fabric of space and time and allowed this being to come through. And this is a portrait by Crowley taken from life of what this being looked like. Next slide. Does that look a little familiar?
To give the first drawing during the 20th century of one of these large-headed entities, a character that Crowley claimed stepped through.
His ritual in New York established contact with an entity called Lamb. Lamb being a Tibetan word for pathway or pathfinder. Lamb was considered to be of interdimensional origin, which was the term then for extraterrestrial.
Crowley drew an effigy of Lamb, which eerily represents the popular modern image of an alien some half a century later.
I mean, it's really, the eyes are a little different, but it's very, very similar to the classic gray alien.
Crowley's drawing of Lamb bears a striking resemblance to what has become commonly referred to as the gray aliens.
One only has to look at that drawing, that famous image of Lamb, this entity that he says that he encountered. It's the archetypal image of an alien grey, really, or it's the prototype of an alien grey.
After an extensive battery of very intense black magic rituals, you may find some similarities between Crowley's drawing and thousands, if not tens of thousands, of other such entities drawn by people from every walk of life all around the globe.
Conducting a certain occult practice, Egyptian occult practice, he managed to open some type of communication with these non-human entities, and one manifested, referred to as Lamb. He said in communication to Aleister Crowley that he was an interdimensional being.
This entity would ultimately become what Crowley would describe as a spiritual guide to him.
Crowley tells us that he encountered an entity who he considered to be his, quote, holy guardian angel.
The Holy Bible bluntly states, "Our contest is not against flesh and blood,
but against principalities, powers,
against the world rulers of this present darkness, against
spiritual wickedness in high places." Crowley is quoted as stating, "Today, they call them angels and demons. Tomorrow, they'll call them something else."
Really though, like really though. Still wicked as Aleister. Crowley niggas know me well. For heaven's sake, I'm the GOAT. You haters could go to hell.